I talked to Avonte Maddox, who was on the Eagles last year and won a Super Bowl. Now he's with us. And I was just talking about like the way we practice. He's like, man, y'all boys practice hard as shit. I'm like, really? He's like, yeah, bro. Like, he goes, y'all go live? I'm like, yeah, what do you mean? That's normal. Like, he's like, nah, hell no. We were not doing that. We got like we do this kind of tackling drill in training camp. He's like, bruh, if we did that in Philly, dudes be going crazy. I'm like, really, bro? I feel like we've done it every year. Like it's normal. Like that's what training camp's like. He's like, nah, this shit ain't normal, bro.
All right, so a clip from the St. Brown podcast, which I will say this. I am not a fan of athletes having podcasts. I think it's one of the worst things that ever freaking happened that's ever happened in sports. And then it went from guys having podcasts to ex-athletes having podcasts to current athletes having podcasts. I'm just not a fan of it. But I explained that real quick why I'm not a fan of either one, because these guys start getting on these shows and giving minstrel shows and gossiping about things happening in the locker room. Guys don't do that, bro. Guys should never go public about situations that should remain private. You know what I'm saying? That's how I feel. Like, if we had a fight, two guys in the locker room had a fight, that should stay in the locker room. It shouldn't go on TikTok or, you know, leave that. I don't even think women should do that. Women always run to TikTok to be like, oh, I cheated on my husband, or my best friend slept with my boyfriend, and leave that girly shit to them. These guys get on these podcasts and they gossip about what happened back in the day. It's tacky. And then if they critique a player, oh, you wasn't that good, it's a messy situation. I don't think former players should be podcasting. Really, I don't even think they should really even be on TV. Because can they really be objective? Because if they say something bad about a guy or objective about a guy that they played with, it's an issue. I just don't really like it, bro. I think there's exceptions like Troy Aikman, and there's exceptions like Nate Burleson, and I think there's exceptions like that. Like, guys who's really talented. Everybody having a microphone when most of the people should have a headphones. I ain't with it. But especially current players having podcasts about football. I don't like it, bro. Or having podcasts about their profession, whether you're a soccer player, basketball player, baseball player. You know what I'm saying? I ain't a fan of it. I just really not a fan of it. You slip up and say something, it's just, to me, And I know some people that really don't really care for St. Brown because he's arrogant. I think Craig Reynolds came on and he echoed that. He echoed them same sentiments about him, and that. I mean, that's just who he is. He was a really good high school player. Look at the father, very confident. But some people don't, especially white people. They don't like when athletes or people are bold, brash, arrogant, loud, and that's okay. Everybody can't be the same. If everybody was the Fighting Irish, go fight, go, like just straight up Poindexter, you need those rah-rah guys. You need those guys that talk the shit, or it's a little flashy, especially in sports. It's a balance. You need that in life, right? So I get it. Like, some people don't like him because he's cocky, he's confident, and a lot of times that's just part of being masculine. It's a lot of toxic masculinity when you start talking about guys, like guys who is not a lot of people fear. I'm gonna tell you this: where hate really come from. Nas said it best in the song he had called "Stay." It's really confused admiration. A lot of people really hate you because you have traits that they wish they had. There you have it. That's where a lot of hate come from, bro. Like, you'll be one of those guys that you don't have much, and your friend who got the video games, the cars, the shoes, and they'll be still hating on you because they see something. They see something in you. Come on, man. What are you doing? Like, women just driving just irks my nerves, bro. It literally irks my nerves. Like, she just did the stupidest shit ever. But nonetheless. But yeah, they see something, they see a quality that you have, and you may not even notice it's a quality that's a good quality, and they start hating on you. But to the point, I'm not a fan of it, right? I like the St. Brown podcast. right? His brother's pretty good on the microphone, you know, very talented. St. Brown, he's getting there. I like, he's a great football player. But personally, he let some shit out the bag on that podcast. He said that Maddox, he from Detroit, I forget his name, I don't want to butcher it. That he said that there was a tackling drill where Jahmyr Gibbs got tackled really, really hard. And he said we would have never done that in Philly. We're not that physical. We don't practice that hard in Philly. And now obviously the first thing that I thought, and I heard other people say this too, is that this is why the Detroit Lions are so hard. Now the only explanation I could really think about that was the reason they do that is because they don't play preseason. And also you don't have as many padded practices as you used to back in the day. So you have to make up for it. And remember that clip of Hard Knocks where he was telling the players that, if we could find a way around this and we didn't have to do this, I'm paraphrasing Dan Campbell, we wouldn't have to do this, but we got to do this, man. And I just see they still haven't reevaluated the injuries because the injuries still mounting up. Going into this, I know it's non-football injury related. Josh Pascal is still injured. Miles Frazier is injured. It's a number of these guys that every year they come in injured onto the squad, right? Right? Or they get injured. They're practicing too hard. You heard him. We will never. He said we will never. He said they thought it was normal. No, it's not normal. He said we would never practice that hard in Philly. We would never do that in Philly. That's what he said. We would never do that in Philly. So, and I think a lot of people is drawing it out. This is why y'all always injured. This is why it's always injuries and these little knick-knack, y'all practicing too hard. And I get it. You have to prepare for the season, but it just seemed like it's becoming abuse. At some point it used to be back when the world was pretty much more closer to normal than abnormal. Now, there was a line between abuse and discipline. There wasn't no thin line between abuse and discipline. Remember the Titans? And he told them when they kept doing up downs that, he was treading the line between abuse and discipline. He said, you treading that line, Coach Boone, I'm paraphrasing. He said something like that. And he called it off. And then as soon as he called it off, right, the up downs let them get water because they didn't want to get along because, they was integrated as one of the first schools to integrate. And they didn't want to get along. What's the first thing they did when he gave them a break? They got to fighting over the water right after he gave them a discipline. So Coach Boone was right. But yeah, they practicing too hard, man. That's just what it is. And I understand you got to get them. You got to get hit to prepare your body for the season. But they need to reevaluate. I think they fired the strength and conditioning coach, brought a new guy. No, right then and there, we figured it out through a St. Brown podcast what it is. There's becoming too much abuse in your practices. Especially a running back shouldn't be taking those type of tumultuous hits at all. He shouldn't. But, it is what it is, man. Thumbs up the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel, check out the Detroit Lions Talk playlist, hit the link tree, find me everywhere. Peace.